Hello, everyone. This is Mark Anthony with Edge on Regenerative Medicine Show, the place where we bring you the best of the best doctors. What more can I say? We have here Dr. Mark Boles. Yes, the myth, the legend, literally. I think you'd probably say more myth, but I say legend. And I'll tell you what, he's been doing this for 35 years, man. I mean, 35 years. And you know what I love about this? I love about this is that the topic for today is hair today, gone tomorrow. I mean, for the love of mercy, how many of us love our hair? Come on, let's be real, men, women. When was the last time you're taking a shower and you see hair start a lot more hair falling on your hand than usual? And you're like, uh-oh, am I losing my hair? We've all done that. Why? Because we're hair or self-conscious. With that being said, today we'll be talking about hair. You can find Dr. Mark Boles at eastshorehealthcare.com, shorehealthcare.com. The phone number is on the screen. Yes, today we will be talking about hair transplant versus hair. What's better? What's not? What costs more? What really works? So again, thank you so much, Dr. Mark, for being here with us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Wow, this subject is huge, and there's so many ways. I mean, I'm going to have to ask you, how much time do I have? Because there's just so many ways to go with this. But just to give you a little background, you're right. I've been practicing medicine for 35 years, and I love what I do. I like helping people. I've spent lots of years actually in the trenches and the emergency rooms and the hospital and whatnot. But oddly enough, back in 1995, I had a friend of mine. He was a surgeon, worked for a hair transplant company, and I get this phone call from him, and he says, "Hey, Mark, we need help. We need a doctor. Would you be interested?" And I said, I didn't go to school for 1,000 years to put hair on people's head and whatnot. But all right, I'll come down and see what you guys are doing. And the problem, I'll stop right there. The problem with that is I didn't realize the importance at that point. So when I just quickly dismissed it, it's because I didn't realize the importance of what he was doing and what he was talking about. But Mark, I went down there anyway to watch what they were doing, and I will tell you that amazing stuff. But what I learned first off was that hair is important. And I don't think there's a man or woman out there, when we start losing our hair, we agonize over it. I mean, we agonize. And they say we can lose 100 hairs a day is normal loss. And I got to tell you, when I get done showering, I look in my bathtub and I think, oh my God, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every hair I agonize. So even though I know that 100 hairs a day is normal, I agonize over it, like everybody does. But I've been working with hair for a lot of years, and I understand the importance of it. One of the things that hair does is that hair creates an artistic appearance to our look. It basically says, when you have your hairline there, it basically says this is where the face stops and the head starts, or vice versa, however you want to say it. When we lose that hairline, we start to lose our hair. Well, where does the face stop? Or is it all just one big head? What is it? People, as we lose our hair, people tend to try and adapt to that hair loss, through different ways. We try and style our hair differently. We may add a little product to it at the beginning.
Or we may do the Trump thing, where we just kind of go to the side.
Oh yeah, right. And we're all guilty of it. And then you see the people that shave their heads, and I will tell you that I know lots of people that shave their heads, and but what that's doing is we're trying to adapt to this hair loss. And when you shave your head, some people have these perfectly shaped heads. They actually look better.
They look better.
Oh yeah, I know me. If I shave my head, I'll look like I'm from another planet. Okay. But what happens when you lose that hair, again, you lose that artistic quality to your face. Or in other words, like you, Mark, you're no longer pretty. Or maybe you are. Okay. Maybe you're more rugged or something along that line, but you do lose that artistic quality to your face. And so I don't think there's a man or a woman out there, boy, when you lose that hair, when that final hair drops to the floor, I don't think there's anybody out there saying, thank God that's gone.
So what's the difference between hair transplant, say, versus toupees or
Okay.
stuff like that?
So there, yeah. So there's a lot of things we can do when we lose our hair. You mentioned toupee or wig. That is one thing that people do. I don't see, I can tell you, again, I started doing this in 95, way back then. You saw lots of people with wigs and toupees. People are not doing that as much. And the reason why they're not doing it as much is, number one, people don't wear them the right way. They wear them too thick. They bring them
Too
down
low,
too
too high.
Yeah.
They're mismatching.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the color doesn't match, it just, the quality of the hair doesn't come together right. And so, and the other problem with toupees is that there's just this ongoing expense with it. You never get away from that. You've got to get them cleaned, you've got to get them trimmed, you've got to get them colored.
They're expensive.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and they are. But I don't see that as much as I used to, just because people do tend to shave their head more, these days. But, there are people that just can't stand the idea of not having hair. So, yeah, so they'll go do a toupee or something along that line. When we talk about the difference between that toupee, which is an artificial head of hair, and you talk about a hair transplant, transplants have been done for, God, well, like I said, I've been doing it since 95. It actually goes into the 80s. But back then it was completely different than what's being done now. Back then, Mark, I mean, I can tell you the very first patient I ever saw, it had that kind of pluggy look to it and just didn't look normal, didn't look natural. I thought, oh my God, I mean, who would go for that? Well, people did. But what's happened over the last 30 years is what I would describe as an evolution in the hair transplant business, meaning we went from that type of Barbie doll look to nowadays. One of our greatest sayings that we say in the industry is, you'll never see our best work. And the reason why you'll never see our best work, because hair transplant nowadays look extremely natural. Okay. And the biggest difference between a toupee versus a transplant is a transplant. It's your hair. It's your hair. You could skydive. You
Oh,
could
wow, I
scuba.
love it.
In a mad, passionate romance moment, your partner grabs your hair and yanks on it. Oh, hey, we all like that, right? And it's come out. You don't lose it, but this is your hair. Okay. And that is the advantage. And now, of course, when it comes to a hair transplant, there are limitations with it. If the person loses all of their hair on top of their head, well, you're never going to fill all that in. Okay. God only gives you so many hair follicles, and that's it. And once those follicles start to die off, you only have so much to work with. So I kind of describe it as, I can either come and, if you ask me to come over and paint your house, I can either, many times paint the front of a house and make it look beautiful, and maybe not so much in the back. So there are little ploys like that we use. But again, if you're going to ask me the biggest difference between a wig or toupee versus a transplant, it's your transplant gives you your own healthy, natural hair. You can color it, you can style it. You've got to get it cut. This is your hair.
Wow. So how long does a hair transplant last?
Well, yeah. Transplants generally will last all your life.
Wow.
Now, having said that, I've seen people that maybe I did 1,000 hair grafts on maybe 20 years ago, and they come back to see me again. And some of those people, you look, they may not have all 1,000 hair grafts still growing, but the majority of it will grow forever.
Right. Okay. And so how many hair transplants do you think you've done average?
I was almost afraid you were going to ask me that question. Remember, like I said, I've been doing it since 1995. I can tell you, believe it or not, I probably have done over 10,000 hair transplants.
Wow. That's a Backstreet Boy. So I want to pause you just real quick, guys. I want you guys to catch this. I'm very honed in on the keywords, and I've done a little research. Go right now. Go to Google and see who has done transplant for over 30 years. You're not going to find that many people.
You won't.
Very few, and that are focused on it. See, the problem that I see with a lot of doctors is they do a bunch of things. He's done this for over 30 years. So I just want to say, make sure that just because you're getting something cheaper from somewhere else, most likely means you're just going to get crap. I'm just saying it like it is. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted the Nike Airs. My parents couldn't afford it. They got me Pro-Ings from Payless. You know, it's like, it is what it is. So I remember my parents like, well, we're not going to get you those shoes. We're going to take them back because they did buy them. My dad heard about it. Hopefully my dad's not watching this. Well, so you shouldn't have been so cheap, Dad. Come on, quality. Yeah, I said it. So my mom bought me a pair of Nike Airs. I was in 8th grade. I'll never forget it. Kids don't forget things. These Nike Airs were sick. They were black, white. They had a little bubble in the bottom, and they're expensive. My dad saw how much they were. He took them back. Whatever. It is what it is. So they took me to Payless shoe store, and I got 2 pairs. I'm not joking. I was at school that day, the next day, and the flipper of the back of the shoe fell off. Imagine an 8th grader, how embarrassed. You know why? Because my parents got a better deal. They weren't looking at quality. I love hair, guys. If I had a hair situation, I would go to him, and I'll tell you why, because of the experience. So what I'm trying to tell you is don't be cheap out there. Don't undercut yourself. You're worth it, my friends. Anyways, go ahead. I apologize. I just had to do a plug in there.
Well, you know, Mark, and I'll add to that. You know, there's a lot of physicians out there doing that. A lot of group practices are doing it, and you have to be careful. I mean, you do have to be careful. And again, you know me, where I'm never going to tell you that I'm the very best out there. Okay, what I will tell you is that I'll do the best I can for you. You know, I will go that extra mile for you. I will do whatever it takes. I give everybody my personal cell phone number. And believe me, I get people calling me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning all the time. Your success, if we're doing a transplant on you, your success is my success, or vice versa. My success is your success. But we're all in this together. And I think that that's the way I approach this thing. But so I firmly believe in hair transplants, and we transplant a lot of things. You know, we just don't transplant the head hair. You know, we'll do beards because we get, you know, beards are pretty popular nowadays.
Eyebrows, right?
Yeah, we do eyebrows. I mean, we just did a woman the other day, you know, and she came in. You know, women are trying to, over time, you know, we lose our eyebrows. And so there are various techniques that you can do to kind of give that look that you have eyebrows. But, you know, nowadays people want hair on their eyebrows. So we transplant that, a very natural appearance, a very, you know, easy thing to do. So people are transplanting different areas of their body. You know, again, we specifically do head hair, beards, and eyebrows. And eyebrows are huge nowadays. We do a lot of eyebrows. But, you know, going back to, you know, us losing our hair, you know, wigs, toupees, hair transplants are only some of the things that you can do. I mean, there are other things you can do. I mean, you know, when people come in to see us, you know, very first thing after I'm done evaluating that patient and trying to determine why they're losing their hair, you know, we talk about things such as medications. You know, the 2 biggest medications are, you know, are Rogaine and Propecia, Propecia or slash finasteride. Those are the 2 most common, you know, medications that are out there. You know, I talk to people about, you know, a good diet, good exercise program, because that's part of losing your hair as well. You have to take care of your health. And that's a real basic, you know, a fact here, that if you're not taking care of yourself, then, you know, I mean, your body suffers for it. And so I talk to people about eating right, weight control, exercise, not smoking, you know, maybe cutting back on the drinks a little bit, you know, that kind of thing, but taking care of yourselves. That's the very first thing you do. And then we get into nutrition a little bit. One of the vitamins that I actually take, which is good for hair, is biotin. And I believe very strongly in taking biotin, 5,000 units a day of biotin. I've been doing that for years, and I think it's helped, you know, save a lot of my hair at this point. And so those are some of the things you can do, taking care of yourself and medications. And then you get into other things such as laser caps, for example. You might hear that a little bit. Laser caps have been around for a long time. They are FDA approved for hair loss. Do they work? Yeah, they do a little bit. And then, you know, and then there's other things you can do, various blood product kind of things that, you know, at some point we can talk about. but those are the things that we do. I mean, I think the first thing that people do when they start losing their hair, the first thing we should do is, come on in, we do a consultation for you, and we understand, is this a normal hair loss or is there something else going on? So that's important to figure that out. And then, like I said, we talk about taking care of your body, we talk about medication, we talk about blood products, we talk about everything at that point, and then we let you make your decision at that point.
How did you get it? How did you get into the hair industry? Because I mean, I don't think that you decided, yeah, I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to do hair, or maybe did you?
Yeah. It's funny. As I said earlier, a friend of mine invited me down to their clinic. They said they needed another doctor, and quite frankly, they didn't care. They didn't care who. They just wanted a doctor to come in, and so I went down there. And in the beginning, I didn't have a lot of appreciation for it, but wow, over all these years, and you hear the stories and whatnot. I mean, I've had people come in. One guy came in, for example, and he said. He said, I'm a lawyer. I'm the most experienced guy in the office. I'm 48 years old, the most experienced. I've had more trial time than anybody else. And when people but he was bald. And he said, when people walk into the office, do they come to me, the most experienced guy? No, they look at, the young guy with a full head of hair who doesn't have any experience compared to me. They say in politics, that people, if they don't know anything about the candidates, they vote for the better looking guy because it's easier. They look at that guy. One of the other things we do a lot of, nowadays we do a lot of people that, transsexuals, transitioning, male to female, female to male. We just did somebody not too long ago was transitioning from male to female, which is interesting because for, his life, he was male, developed a male pattern baldness. Wow. And now okay, I've done all these other things. What am I going to do about my hair? And he didn't want to, she didn't want to wear a wig at that point. She wanted her own hair. Well, obviously a female has a different hairline, and female hairline kind of tends to round the face. So what we did for her was, we did just that. We created a new hairline, filled in the balding areas, and it worked out. So I mean, it's something that I really enjoy doing because for these people, God, it's just everything for them. And I can tell you, they're happy. They're happy when their hair grows in. And so, I enjoy, doing that. But I've done people of all ages. Generally, I would say the bulk of our patients are males. But I've done people as young as 20. I've done children that have come in with big scarring for various reasons on their skull, so they want to cover up that scar. And so we're kind of all over the place. But I have to tell you, when you see the satisfaction and you see the confidence, one of the other things I'll tell you is that, we'll transplant people. And when people come in, we take pictures, before and after pictures, and you'll see these people that have lost their hair, and you'll say, okay, look straight into the camera. And they won't look into the camera. They keep their head down low. They come back 8, 9 months, a year later. They come back and we say, okay, look in the camera for that follow-up picture. Boy, they are smiling. They're looking straight into the camera. And now you look at them and say, well, what's different about you? Are you working out? Well, yeah, because now they're looking good and they want to feel even better. So they're doing things such as weight loss. They're exercising. A couple of these guys are out there and they're doing testosterone because they want to do everything they can. They're getting their lives back. So when you ask, how did I get into it? Well, I kind of got into it sort of by being asked, but boy, I mean, the last 30 years of this has been incredible. I can tell you that, because you just see the difference that it makes in people's lives.
I like the fact that it's going to last for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you have it to where like you do like a checkup or
mm-hmm. Yep.
How does that work? Is that once a year, every 6 months, every quarter?
No. So it's so individualized, Mark. I mean, you'll have people that will come in that still have pretty good hair on their head. And so so the conversation is, number one, well, what are we going to do to maintain that hair that you still have, rather than just letting it go. Okay. And so we'll talk about different medications that they can do and whatnot to maintain that hair. And then, we'll do the transplant at that point to fill in gaps that might have, have occurred. And then we see them back, so we'll see people back that first year just to make sure that everything looks healthy, somewhere between 6 and 9 months. Right. we used to see people that would come in at a month after their surgery. Problem is they were healed, everything looked good, so there wasn't a lot to see. So we generally like to see you back between 6 months to 9 months, in that range. After that, it just kind of depends, because some people, again, if they're the hair grows in from the transplant, they're maintaining their hair. I may not see somebody back for 5 years. Okay. But some people will continue to lose more and more hair to the point that they'll come back and say, well, the last couple of years have been really rough for me. What should I do? And you'll see these people where you'll have to add more hair to them. So it's really individualized. And I try and give a real honest assessment. Last thing I want, I never want the 60-year-old to come in thinking that he's going to look 20 again. So, sometimes I'm brutally honest. I tell people this is what we can do for you. But so I like to think of it like, I'm in this with you. I'm in this journey with you. And so if you need to see me every year, if you need to see me every month, that's when I see you. So
I like that, and I'm a big fan of like older movies, like from the 70s and 60s. And I'm actually right now watching the old series, what is it? Columbo.
oh, yeah.
And I love him because he's just always trying to figure things out. He plays
Yep.
stupid, and I like that.
Yep.
And it's funny because I see a lot of people in there that are in their 60s trying to look like they did when they were in their 30s.
Yeah.
And they always try to dye their hair a certain color, and it just doesn't have that, exact vibrance, So it's interesting. If they would have had you now, you could have, matched it up with their hair that they already have and make it
Sure.
look, the way it should be. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing a plug out there, my friends out there on internet land. I'm sure you're probably listening on Spotify or YouTube. Call the number on the screen. Dr. Mark Boles is, if you notice, if you go back and listen, as soon as I mentioned certain things about hair, I've never seen somebody get so happy so quickly. That's the person that you want working with your hair. Someone that's passionate, not someone that's going to give you a couple pills and maybe give you a couple shots in your hair and hopefully it'll grow back. We're not in the hope industry. Obama quit 8 years ago. My point is that we're in an industry where we've evolved, but at the same time, not only evolved, but you have someone that has the decades behind him to help you. So what I'd like you guys to do is take a look at eastshorehealthcare.com. We'll have a phone number on the screen. You can give Dr. Mark Boles a phone call. But I'd like to ask you one more question before we leave or land this plane in a good way. What's one of the most, maybe the best memories that you know, that maybe a story of helping somebody that maybe felt helpless? You saw them come in and they were just like, they've talked to so many people, and then after you help them out, everything's changed.
Yep. I have so many stories on that. I have to tell you, and I'm going to go back. We do people of all ages, we do people of all ethnicities. And wow, the stories. I think one of the things that comes, as I think about it, is I mentioned that we do transgender hair transplants, and I can remember this one lady come in, and she was transitioning male to female, and she sat in front of me and she was in tears, and her family had rejected her. Her parents had rejected her, her brothers and sisters. She had lost her job, had really had just been turned away from everybody in her family. And Mark, let's face it, I'm an older guy, different generation and whatnot. But this girl grabbed a hold of me so tight just because of the way that she saw herself, she felt about herself, the way that her family looked at her. This girl grabbed a hold of my heart so tight that we did what we did, and we did what we do. And when it grew in, she came back, and I have to tell you, I can even telling you this story, she came back and she just walked in, and the smile on her face, the confidence had returned. She felt good. She had made up to some degree with her parents. That was going to take a while.
Wow.
Came in, and the smile on her face, and Mark, is that it brought tears to my eyes. Because I knew beyond hair. I knew that this one individual I had helped, and I had done something good. And so, like I said, it brought tears to my eyes. But that, when you talk about, some of the most amazing stories, that's one. But the stories are all over the place, Mark, because you get these people that come in and they've just totally lost confidence. And now you've helped them, and now they're going for the better job, or they're going for the girl, as they say, in the movies, and they're doing whatever, because they've just developed that confidence back. And so this is a good field to be in.
Wow.
And I feel blessed. I feel happy that, this is something I'm doing.
Wow. As you're speaking, and talking, it's interesting. I was thinking of COVID. We've had this whole COVID thing for the past 3 years, and it's died down a lot. But a lot of people don't realize that the people that had COVID, they lost their hair.
Yep.
And a lot of women, my wife is one of them. She lost a lot of her hair.
Yep.
And it was like, man, it's like, it's got thinner. It's just not as
Yep.
vibrant. A lot of the women they're buying hair pieces a lot more than usual. So that's gone up in price. So I just want to let you guys know, this is something that's important to a lot of people. And if you're one of those people out there that are struggling with your hair, don't struggle anymore. Call the phone number on the screen. Talk to Dr. Boles. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, and that you're not alone, and you should feel good about yourself. So if you're struggling, make sure you guys call the number on the screen, or you can go to eastshorehealthcare.com. And again, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Boles, for being on the show. You are phenomenal. I love what you do, because you're helping people keep their smile on.
Good. Thank you.
Any last words you'd like to say before we land this plane, since I already said that twice?
Well, again, when you say last words, there's never a last word for me. I mean, I'll keep talking. No, or people that are listening to the show, if somebody just wants to come in and just sit down and talk, we're always happy to do that. So
okay. Make sure you got some coffee. I'll bring the cream. All right. God
right.
bless you. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yep. Thank you.